Welcome back to another edition of the RTF Show. I am your host, one of your hosts, Michael, owner of the sad Decatur Staleys, here with brother John. What's up, John? Feeling pretty good about yourself today?
No one's sleeping in the Rose City tonight. We are partying. The team came home. Everyone met them at the airport. It was a phenomenal showing. It was exactly what you want to do first week out after, putting up Detroit Lions, Jacksonville Jaguars numbers last year. So we're very excited here in the Rose City.
Big week for your boys. Really took it to me, and we'll get into it a little bit as we go down the line here. Today we're going to go through, look at each matchup, talk about some takeaways from each matchup, maybe give you some big overreactions to week one, talk about our biggest takeaways, and generally just kind of go through some of the highlights, which we can start with, the actual football games that happened.
Yeah,
there were some pretty
football's
crazy,
back, baby.
Yeah, it was great to see. There were some pretty crazy games, running backwards from that game last night, the double overtime or the overtime game with the Ravens taking a gut-punching loss to the Raiders, which was honestly one of the most hilarious ends to a game that I think I've ever seen.
I'm sure a lot of fantasy football games were won and lost with Lamar's fumble there and Derek Carr. I mean, I don't know if anyone's starting Derek Carr, but with Darren Waller's 19 targets, I'm sure they won and lost some games based on those. So, but yeah, just a great weekend. It was so nice to just sit on the couch all day Sunday, drinking some mimosas, eating some edibles, just watching football again. We're back. And then it was very disheartening to watch the Bears on Sunday night. That was some terrible.
You know what the worst part is?
The defense.
Well, the defense was bad. The secondary is awful. But the really what's just I hate that the Bears have so many primetime games. They've got especially towards the end of the season, they've got a bunch in a row. They've got a Thanksgiving game this year. Just take the Bears off of primetime. Yeah. Nobody wants to see this shit.
It's like, not good football.
I feel bad that everybody else has to watch this. Just hide us at fucking noon. Oh boy.
Yeah.
On top of that, though, it was not a great week for a lot of people in the league. Who are fans of the NFL.
Good point there. So think of your favorite team right now, and did they win or did they lose? 11 out of 12 of us just thought that our team lost. The one person in our league that had a great day Sunday morning, I guess, would be Kelly. And Kelly Steelers took down Portugal the Ken's Bills in a wonderfully spectacular, dramatic fashion late in the game. So, Ken, I hope you're doing okay.
Yeah,
not
another
really,
great game.
I don't really. But yeah, great game. It was awesome to see. Big Ben still got a little life in him. Najee Harris looked real good. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, Najee, he looked
for a
fine.
Rookie.
Yeah, he looked fine. All right, a couple other big things happened, and we haven't talked about one of these since it happened because we were off the air last week. And I do want to note that this is pertaining to the trade that I made with Mr. William Boylan, Bill, as he's known. The Gus Edwards, Mark Andrews transaction that happened. Gus obviously went down almost immediately following that trade, out for the year with a torn ACL, another in a long line of Ravens running backs who have gone down this season. Bill, we were planning to have Bill on. Bill was invited on. He was unable to make it both last week. We were going to try to have him on. I had some internet issues, but he wasn't able to make that either. And then this week, but we will have Bill on sometime soon. But the Ravens running back situation seems to be, ever changing. We'll see what happens going forward after having signed Latavius Murray, and having what looks to be, I saw described as the most decorated practice squad running back room in NFL history, with Devonta Freeman and Le'Veon Bell in there. So
the amount of the years of experience in there, that could be the most of any time. I will say regarding that trade, Mark Andrews did not put up that many more points than Gus Edwards did in yesterday's game. So.
But I think as we'll see, Mark Andrews, I don't think is the reason I lost that game. But we'll get into that in a second. The other big ones, Jerry Jeudy goes down.
Yeah.
He's going to be out for a little while. It'll be interesting to see what, that Broncos offense was humming. So, and they played without him for most of the game. So it'll be interesting to see what effect that has on that Broncos offense. But
I didn't watch that game. So, but Jerry Jeudy out for 6 weeks, I think. So that's tough.
Yep. The other one's Ryan Fitzpatrick is out for. Well, they put him on IR. I don't know. 6 weeks. So,
and it sounds like it could be longer than that. And who knows what they're gonna do? That's
for sure.
Cam's right sitting out there, but you don't bring in an unvaccinated player.
I mean, at this point, at this point, it's what, Taylor Heineke time. I think Kyle Allen is on the roster. I'm not sure. Cam might be the best option, vaccinated or unvaccinated. Maybe they trade for Nick Foles. How about that?
Did they? I didn't see that.
No, I said maybe they do.
They will. Oh, that'd be nice. Oh God, he looks sad on the sideline. How do you think that affects Scary Terry? And I think that helps Gibson. If he is becoming more of that 3-down back and getting a lot of checkdowns. But what do you think about Scary Terry now?
Well, it has to have some negative effect, you would imagine, on both McLaurin and what's his name, Logan Thomas, right? Is it the tight end? So we'll see, I guess, going forward. McLaurin is really their only. Especially with what's his name on IR, Curtis Samuel's on IR for them, right? So, right. McLaurin's their only real threat there. The other big injury, Mostert went down, Raheem Mostert, and that
2 snaps.
We can talk more about the 49ers in a second. But from there. From there, let's get into the week in review.
First up, Survivor. Let's knock that one out of the way, just in case anyone has forgotten what Survivor is. All 12 of us have started on an island in week 1, and the person with the lowest scoring amount on the week is removed from the island. And then week 2, there's 11 of us. Lowest scoring person moves on until we get to the end, where there's only one person, and they are the survivor. This week, we say sayonara to football and stuff. Charlie Gilman, he is going with only 65.62 points. Certainly not his lowest score of record in the league, and so
but it is
it is the lowest of the year.
If this Packer Packer trend continues, it he might break that record as well.
He might be overall.
Yeah, exactly. And then we had one other big winner this week, our first weekly prize winner, highest score. You can see it right here. The Blue Barracudas put up 140 points. Steve walks away with a cool $25 in his pocket.
Yes, sir.
Buy yourself something nice, Steve. Preferably not something that has a Packers logo on it. All right. Shall we get into the...
Just as a reminder then, our next weekly prize event will be week 3, and that's going to be a league pick'em. We'll send out a Google form where everyone can choose winners for our league, not for the NFL. So you will be choosing RTFL games. We'll explain more of that next week, though.
Most definitely. All right, let's get into the breakdowns. We're going to go game by game here and look at each matchup. I think, you want to start with ours and get it out of the way real quickly, or you want to just leave it till the end because nobody will be watching them?
Let's, I already beat you. Let's put you out of your misery real quick, okay?
Okay, fine. I took a tough loss to John this week. John, explosive performances from Tyreek Hill, and CeeDee Lamb obviously on Thursday night had a great game. I know you were a little bit nervous about the Ezekiel Elliott performance, but that Tyreek Hill performance really put you over the top.
Yeah, I would say that he was. He was the reason I think I got the point total I did. I don't know if it's so much as I won as your team lost. You should bet, but
it's hard to win when a guy that you kept, a guy that you signed just a couple weeks ago to a 3-year contract, essentially, I think he played 26 snaps. Didn't get targeted once, and by all reports, is either injured or is hiding in Kyle Shanahan's doghouse right now. I did spend quite a bit of time looking to see if there was any way I had any connection to Kyle Shanahan, and that he might be purposefully trying to fuck me over with the Trace Sermon thing, him getting benched, not getting benched, just not being active for the game.
Yeah, he wasn't even allowed on the bench.
I did find that this year the 49ers hired a former Ithaca Bomber as a player personnel, a scout. I did look the guy up. He graduated significantly after me, but I guess there's a chance that he has some relative at Ithaca that I significantly offended and have since forgotten about, which is very possible, as I offended a lot of people in college. So I might have brought this on myself. The
Ayuk thing was insane. I don't understand. Yeah. So is he injured? Is he not injured? I don't think anyone knows.
No, it appears there's a slight hamstring thing, but who knows?
Then you had Deontay Johnson, who missed a significant portion of the game.
But who looked pretty good otherwise.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a not great game, but I wouldn't be worried about him going forward.
No, I'm not worried.
I think that offense just got started late, and they'll be.
They were playing from behind for quite a bit of time there, so I'm not too worried about Edwards-Helaire. The one bright spot that I'll take away from this game, Jalen Hurts looks like he could be the real deal. He was awesome by all accounts from what I saw, and was really doing some true quarterback stuff, not just athletic guy scrambling out stuff. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Then the only other thing that I would want to touch on would be the Trace Sermon thing that, with Raheem Mostert going down, Mitchell, obviously is going to be a pretty big waiver wire candidate. I'm sure people are putting in their bids right now. No one go too high, please. But we'll find. I guess people will find out before before this comes out tomorrow morning. So
Good
that was
show.
a weird scratch, but I think they're gonna have to play Sermon, so I think you'll have a
I'm not
potentially good flex opportunity there with, you know, if IU does come out with some sort of injury.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about the Sermon thing. All right, let's. You want to do anything else here? Or should we move on?
Oh no, that's fine.
Let's move on. All right. The next matchup, the Peter versus Peter. Peter won. The Alpha Peter, that is his team, the Alpha Peters, took down the Average Peters. Really, I think, you know, the thing that obviously the Saquon Barkley thing for Sullivan hurts. You know, to see him only get 11 touches in that game is, I know, you know, they were playing from behind for part of it, so part of it might just be, you know, that, but that's rough. Maybe they're working him back into it.
That's what it sounds like. He's not on a snap count, but they're really taking their time, and it sounds like that could happen again this week. They're playing Thursday night.
Yep.
I don't know how you sit him, but
well, I mean, I was thinking about that. I mean, Kareem, that Cleveland team is good, like really good. That offense looked really good on Sunday. So, I mean, I don't know that it's really hard to sit Saquon Barkley. But
I've been looking at it though. He's got Miles Sanders, Najee Harris, who, his stat line is not as impressive as I thought it was. But they were also playing from behind quite a bit in that game. But rolling out any combination of Kareem Hunt, Najee Harris, and Miles Sanders will. I mean, I feel like you could have some confidence in that sitting Saquon, but that's a hard thing to do.
Yes, it is. On the other, I mean, and on top of that, you know, we talked about the other concerns, the McLaurin kind of concerns of what happens without Ryan Fitzpatrick. But the other thing I'll just note on Sullivan's team, Higbee looks like he's going to be very involved in the offense, just based on that Bears game the other night. So if I were Pete, I'd be pretty stoked about what I saw from there. And then hopefully, you know, you get Odell Beckham back sooner rather than later.
And Johnny Smith looked good too in the Pats offense. And so he might have some tough decisions coming up, you know, if they both play well again this week, who to start. And, you know, it's 50-50 shot. And that does take us over to Peter's side, who he went out and paid a hefty price for Gronkowski, $13 this past week, when he already had Noah Fant and Dallas Goedert, who is looking to be the sole tight end in Philly with Zach Ertz potentially being injured. So Peter might have Alpha Peter might have a merry-go-round situation there. Not sure who to jump on, who to jump off in his starting tight end situation, which.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the issue there is that all three of them, I think, are hovering around that same level of tight end, right? So having to make that call based on matchups is always tough. Maybe he tries to move one of them.
But boy, Kyle Murray showed up.
Kyler Murray looked great. I mean, the thing that I think that Tennessee, I watched pieces of that Tennessee Arizona game. That Tennessee defense did not look
terrible.
Very good. That bad. So, but I mean, obviously, Kyler Murray, incredible, and really, that's what led Pete's team to this.
Totally, and the people he brought back, the six guys he brought back, They all went over 10 points. Justin Jefferson barely, but still 10 double digits. So you do that, and you're looking to have a strong season already. So team chemistry kept them together.
For sure. Agreed. All right. Anything else you want to say about this game? I mean, I think I don't have too much to say here. I think, some rough games from a running back really kind of sunk this for Sullivan.
Totally.
From both his running
Fitzpatrick
backs.
Going out. That hurt Terry McLaurin. So I think,
it's hard to win when your running backs put up a combined, 8 points. So, all right, let's move on. This next game, absolute fiasco versus thoughts and prayers. Kelly versus Ken, a rematch of a playoff game last year, if I recall correctly.
I thought it was pretty poetic that they were playing each other and their NFL teams were playing each other.
Yeah, there you go. And Kelly got the best of it in both situations. Really, Kelly got a huge performance from Amari Cooper that kind of really helped to hide what I think is going to be a glaring issue moving forward for Kelly. And that is that her running backs outside of Dalvin Cook are in real trouble. So James Conner is James Conner, but James Conner is also gets hurt every year. So he's a tough guy to rely on moving forward. He was involved in that offense, and it does look like that's going to be a true timeshare, but Ronald Jones is going to get another start. Apparently I saw today, but that dude got benched for the entire game after a fumble. And then if we go to her bench, she's only got one other running back on here, and it's Latavius Murray, who, obviously involved in this clusterfuck of a running back room in Baltimore. And Baltimore is a team where their best rusher is not a running back; it's their quarterback. So
he's got his own fumble issues, like Ronald Jones,
apparently. So as big as this win was for Kelly, and obviously even without the Deebo Samuel points that were on her bench, and I think in hindsight, right, you probably take Ronald Jones out of that flex role and put Deebo in there, but.
She texted me on Thursday, like, what was I doing?
Yeah.
There's a 5:15 game starts at 5:20 out here. A 5:15 decision. She said she plugged in Rojo after I went after on the previous podcast, the draft recap. She did not enjoy my take on Rojo. And she immediately texted me saying, "What have I done?"
Yeah.
So, but thankfully on her side, she does. I think she's got some great candidates for trades. Deebo, with this potential Ayuk issue, Deebo could be a great trade asset there. DJ Shark too. Crowded wide receiver core there, but she could get a decent running back too out of that, out of some combination there with those two wide receivers. So she could improve. And I think there's people that are hurting for wide receivers in this situation. So they're in this league.
Yeah.
So there's potential to improve her situation. So.
Yeah, I mean, she was able to overcome as well Younghoe Koo not being able to put up RB2 numbers as John was claiming all offseason that he would. Let's jump across the field to thoughts and prayers.
I think we got to speed it up here, Mike. We got to speed it up here. Let's just skip Ken's.
There you go. Ken had a kind of a what I thought was a pretty weird week. Tannehill, obviously that Tennessee offense just could not get anything going against a surprisingly stout Arizona defense. Chandler Jones looking like he,
for sure,
a younger man than he is. And then the Atlanta offense, I think that's maybe where some concern comes in for Ken is what's happening in that Atlanta offense. Where are they going with this?
Yeah, I have a combination of Ridley and Davis in another league, and boy, did I get my ass kicked in that league. So I understand Ken's pain here. I think they'll turn it around as far as Ridley goes. I don't think what we saw on Sunday is indicative of what we'll be seeing all year from Matt Ryan and Ridley. Davis, it sounds like, it looked like him and Patterson are destined for a timeshare there. And so I don't know if Davis is going to be the guy that what I thought you could start him and get solid production out of him week in and week out. But
I think the concern is, does Arthur Smith, the kind of architect of that Titans offense, that
Falcons?
No, the Titans offense from the last couple of years, who is now in Atlanta, does that translate when you don't have Derrick Henry bowling people over, right? And so, that seems to be the fear. But there were some, the fact that DK Metcalf can come away with 14 points in a game that was clearly a Tyler Lockett game, right?
Yep.
And that happened a lot last year, where Lockett would have his game and Metcalf would have his game. And that was clearly a Tyler Lockett game. But DK still able to find the end zone, come away with 14 points. That's a good sign. And then, maybe the best running back in week one, Joe Mixon, looked amazing. So, if Joe Mixon stays healthy, this obviously, I think, this team has what it takes to go pretty far. So.
Yeah, Ken was touting Joe Mixon all off season. I know he targeted him in quite a few leagues, including this one, obviously. He went out and he set his price and he got Mixon, and it didn't pay off with a win this week, but it certainly paid off for Ken's ego, which needs feeding every now and again. But again, with just like Kelly, he's got a ton of great trade capital in his wide receivers. He has potentially, Devonta Smith looks like the real deal. Mike Williams looked great with Herbert's progression this year. And then Marvin Jones put up a big day as well. And so, he can go out and get.
Are you going to trust anything that comes out of Jacksonville now?
No, most likely not. I don't think so. I think Chenault's the best wide receiver of that group. Marvin Jones is who Marvin Jones is. We've seen him for quite a few years in Detroit at this point. We know he's going to have a big game like this, and then next week put up a dud. But Devonta Smith looked great. And Mike Williams, I do think will be really good in that Chargers offense if he can stay healthy. He's always having health issues, but when he's on the field, he's great. And so to pair him outside opposite Keenan Allen, I think they could be good. But
this was
Kelly went out and won it, I think, more than anything.
For sure. I agree. It's a rough Kelly put up a great week, especially considering her, flex player gave her negative 0.6 points. And, if you're Ken, you're looking at it saying, I hope this Tennessee offense bounces back a little bit, and and the Atlanta offense bounces back a little bit. So,
Sure.
All right, let's move on. The Hollow Earthers versus the San Diego Web Surfers. This is Bill versus Josh. Josh put up a nice 120, 121 on Bill here. Bill had a pretty rough week as well. But let's start with the winning team here. So I think this is a super encouraging game for Josh. Justin Herbert only puts up 14 points, but looks incredible. I was reading some of the third down stats I was seeing and listening to on Mason's podcast the other night. It sounded like he was just firing on all cylinders. So that's encouraging. And then, going down the line, the only two players that really didn't have good games for him in his starting lineup were his two rookies. And I think if you're Josh, you probably say, fine, right? Like, I came away with a victory. Kyle Pitts, was involved in the offense, saw a lot of targets. Javonte Williams, he's a rookie running back. He'll get his legs underneath him and get going, and is clearly going to be involved. So I think if you're Josh, you're coming away pretty encouraged.
Totally. Yeah. The Javonte Williams flex play, I mean, obviously he was pretty confident in his other starters to plug him in there instead of DeAndre Swift. But knowing he's got DeAndre Swift on his bench, could have played him. And
I know Josh
gave Steve a good run for his money on the highest point total. But man, having DeAndre Swift on his bench, this is a scary looking team. If you plug him in, and is it Juan Johnson? Yeah, Juan Johnson.
Oh,
who had a huge day in terms of for a tight end, at least, with 2 touchdowns.
I don't know that. I mean, I guess that's tough, right? Can you count on that type of production?
I mean, Jameis Winston looked pretty good.
He did.
5 touchdowns on 14 receptions or 14 completed passes or something. Like, that's not going to happen every week. But with the depleted wide receiver core that New Orleans is, and while Atlanta's still figuring things out, Josh has got a couple guys that you could easily turn to, and you're looking at 140, 150 week in and week out with a team like this. If AJ Brown gets going, Herbert puts up a few more touchdowns. Scary.
Let's jump across the aisle to Bill's team. Bill, really some rough signs here. We went over Bill's team and how the running backs were he was in a bad situation. Obviously, Gus Edwards really hurts. So I don't want to belabor that. The thing that is really alarming, right? Mike Goszeki doing nothing. I think he only had 2 targets. Really, that's concerning. I'm sure he'll bounce back in some way, but that's a concern. But more than anything, I think the biggest concern for me is I thought he was fine at wide receiver going into this, and now I'm just not so sure. I mean, Thielen had a great game, and I think Claypool is going to be a guy that pops off every now and then. So he'll have some big games from Claypool, but the combination of Mike Evans just not really being involved, Antonio Brown, kind of looking like he's back to being Antonio Brown. The combination of that and Jerry Jeudy going down, who Bill didn't even play, and I don't really fault him for not playing Jerry Jeudy in this game, but the combination of the Mike Evans kind of worries and Jerry Jeudy going down I think are pretty concerning for the Hollow Earthers.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, the one bright spot, it looks like Thielen was being targeted a whole lot more. And while he had 2 touchdowns, which really pumped his numbers up, but 92 yards, that's still great. So maybe he's not as touchdown dependent as kind of everyone was saying going into the season. But so that's an encouraging spot. But yeah, again, going down that line, Landry, I'm not a big believer, but he got 5 receptions, so that could be a decent wide receiver 2 option. But yeah, the ups and downs of Evans and Claypool, to have that happen on the same week is really rough.
Yeah.
You've got Mark Ingram down there, so amazed he was rostered, but I mean, he's not going to get 20 or 25 carries or whatever it was every week, but
I mean,
in the off chance that they end up in a positive game script, that is could be a good option as far as running back, but I don't think that's going to be happening very much. And then AJ Green looked like poop.
Yep, agreed. So I mean, just some concerning.
It's tough to make a trade though,
there.
and then for them to go get injured. That's
for sure. It's disheartening. It's a rough one. All right, let's move on. The Barracudas put up an astounding 140 over the Bomboleros' Revenge. So this was Steve versus Brendan. I'll let you start here. Why don't you give us some takeaways here?
Well, all right. We'll start with Brendan this time. A couple of tough spots, a couple of bright spots. I loved the Antonio Brown start. I thought that was just so ballsy, and he knew something about Tom Brady that we all didn't, and or I guess we all suspected, but he knows his man better than anyone. So that was great to see him start that and just get off to a hot start on the week. He kind of fell a little victim to the same things that, looking at like Ken did, Julio Jones just suffering in that offense. And then Jacksonville not involving Robinson at all really in the game was inexplicable. I mean, you had a top 10 running back last year, sensational. Your rookie goes, then you draft a rookie, he gets injured. How do you not turn back to him and just sort of force feed him the ball there? Was somewhat confusing to me. And then the Fitzpatrick injury is just that sunk him. I mean, how you can't really get over less than 1 point from your quarterback. I think that's almost impossible to win there. So
no, I mean, this was I agree. This is a game that would have been a lot closer had Fitzpatrick obviously been healthy and put up, even close to his projection. So I don't, I think if you're Fitz, you take away the Brown thing. Kelsey looks like Kelsey. Maybe you're a little worried about Julio Jones, but other than that, I wouldn't put too much stock in this week. I mean, the thing that's worrying is what do you do behind Fitzpatrick now, right? When Ben Roethlisberger is your other option. Who, I mean, Ben,
they got the win.
At this point, but at this point, Ben's a game manager and somebody who's gonna, it's hard to see him. He's not.
I mean, that's hard to say though, because at least in most leagues, obviously in all leagues, Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson are drafted or rostered, and sure. a lot of teams have Juju, or a lot of leagues have Juju rostered as well, and so you crazy. Think there is some belief then out there that Ben could support that many receivers, but yeah, I don't think that that's the long-term solution there. He'll definitely be hitting the waiver wire. But jumping over to the other side, Steve, for as distracted as he was in the draft, I think we all said he had a great draft, and
Yep.
And that shows up, here in the score in the box, and that's despite Aaron Jones only putting up 3 points with 9 rushing yards, which it's not going to stay that way for sure. We all know that offense will figure it out. And Steve's team's going to be very difficult to beat once that happens, because there's very few weak points here on his team. I mean,
agreed.
Yeah,
he's
Jamar Chase. Starting Jamar Chase after his preseason, great. I thought that, what a move. Swinging for the fences with, Antonio Brown going off in that on his opponent's team on Thursday, and he just says, all right, let's do this. Boy.
I mean, the reality is for Steve, there weren't a lot of options outside of Jamar Chase.
Looking at that,
sure. Steve's team is pretty top heavy. And so while I know that Steve is looking for us to, shower him with accolades and, really pump up his team, I'm going to focus on the negative here. Behind, well, to me, it's hard to find too much negative, obviously, in the starting lineup. But I think Steve's biggest fear at this point, obviously, as with everybody's team, is injury. And so what happens if a guy like Tyler Lockett goes down, or if a guy like Darren Waller goes down. But I think that obviously his bench isn't quite as strong as maybe anybody would love their bench to be. But in the same way, he's an injury away from your boy Ezekiel Elliott from having another top 10, maybe top 15 running back in Tony Pollard. So this week, though, Steve takes home the $25 prize, high score. Great performance, and really, amazing when Aaron Jones, the guy who, really arguably, not even arguably, is the number 1 pick on this team, is only able to put up 3 points. So, congrats to Steve.
Yeah, that was big.
All right, last game. So the last game here is Charlie versus Alec. And I want to focus on Alec because Alec's team really, put up a hell of a game this week. And Charlie's team, we can get to Charlie's team in a second. But Alec had a huge performance from Mahomes. Huge performance from Godwin, and then really was able to fill in. Jacobs looked pretty good last night for a guy who is, they gave the ball to what's his name, Kenyon Drake a lot, but around the goal line he looked pretty good for a guy that had some apparent toe injury. I thought he looked pretty good. So. I'm impressed by Steve's team by Alec's team, and he did all this on a pretty down week from Derrick Henry. And I know we were talking earlier about the deficiencies of that Tennessee offense, and so maybe there is some concern there. But Derrick Henry is still Derrick Henry, so that you have to believe, right? If you're Alec or a Derrick Henry owner, that he's going to have better days than this, and I'm sure that he will. So I think this is a pretty encouraging sign for Alec that things are trending in the right direction. Especially Allen Robinson also not having a great game, which
for sure
could continue for the foreseeable future.
I mean, he was guarded by Jalen Ramsey for most of that game, so I think Allen Robinson will
very true
trend up. And Derrick Henry, I mean, he did have 3 receptions. Looking at this, like that's fairly encouraging. You know, if somehow Derrick Henry gets more involved in the passing game, watch out. I mean, I don't think they will. His usage is already pretty high. The way he plays is pretty rough. But you know, he'll need his rest. But 3 receptions a game is, you know, that's another 1.5 on top of what usually will be a pretty high point total. Yeah, Josh Jacobs, that was weird. He had some illness. He had a toe injury. It was confusing, but I like it. I think he's going to be very good this year.
Agreed.
Yeah, other than that, on Alex's team, Pat Mahomes, slow start and then a big finish. And so we'll see much more of that throughout the season.
For sure.
Yeah, and then turn into the other side.
Let's do it. Let's talk about Charlie's team.
Well, even if so let's say you take out the Packers players, right? Let's say, you know, I guess it has to be said, you know, his bench outscored his starters 87.9 to 65.6. His bench defense, San Francisco, outscored all but 2 of his starters.
Yes, but here's the real problem with saying that. It's a very misleading stat. Charlie's bench did outscore his starters, but Charlie's bench is made up of 2 quarterbacks and 2 defenses. You can only start, and 2 tight ends. You could theoretically start 2 tight ends, but you can only start 1 quarterback and 1 defense. So that type of depth does no help for you. So I think you have to just kind of take away really all but the Jamal Williams day, which was encouraging. Jamal Williams, you know, was very involved. Granted, it's one of those come from behind. He ends up with 56 receiving yards. I don't know how much you're going to trust that Lions offense. I guess we'll see what they look like maybe in a game against.
Yeah, Williams lined up in the slot a lot. Yeah.
So we'll see what they look like and going forward.
But you know, you look at that, he's gonna have to play Jamal Williams.
Yes.
Raheem Mostert is out.
Mostert is gone.
And the only running back on his bench, the only running back or the only skill position, if you take out tight end, on his bench is Jamal Williams.
Yeah, he has to play him. So he will play Jamal Williams next week. My other fear for him is that he got really big weeks out of Melvin Gordon and out of Brandon Cooks. And I just don't know that you can count on that every week going forward. I think the worry here is you're going to see scores that resemble this, maybe not 65 points, but scores that resemble this, just the inverse of it, where Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams make up a considerable amount of his points, and the rest of his team is putting up, a single-digit points. So that's what I'd be worried about.
Yeah, I mean, looking back to last year, he was getting close to 85 or 90 points out of Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and Aaron Jones.
Yep.
And Melvin Gordon is no Aaron Jones. Mostert was not going to be an Aaron Jones. And Jamal Williams is certainly no Aaron Jones. And so that's a pretty big deficit you have there in terms of points from last year to this year. And, looking at this, do you start Tom Brady over Aaron Rodgers? I personally would. You're going to get a lot more consistency. I mean, you might need the double points in this situation to get going, but
You're not starting. He has to start Aaron Rodgers. I mean, unless this is he's playing Detroit next week, so he's definitely going to start Aaron Rodgers. But I mean, unless this is the start of the end, which God, that'd be fucking amazing if this was the beginning of the end for Aaron Rodgers. But I won't believe it until I see it. So.
I mean, then otherwise, yeah, like, the only saving grace, which I don't think is actually that much of a saving grace, because looking at this, like, I felt like last year and last few years, the week 1 waiver wire has been a lot strong. There's been a lot stronger candidates going into week 2 as far as who to target, and there's very few of these like breakout candidates that weren't as many injuries as we once, as we've seen in the past, like kind of go out and get them guys. But Charlie does have $131 of fab, leaving $31 of draft capital on the table. So you could go out and spend up on a couple guys and hopefully fill in some of these missing pieces, but then that would require him to drop a few quarterbacks and defenses or tight ends to clear some space. So
for sure. All right, let's wrap it up here. That's been your week 1 review, and it was an exciting week 1.
It's good to be back.
Great to have the content again.
We won't go into week previews or any in-depth week previews this week. We're already pushing close to an hour. Just a couple division matchups to highlight. Both of these matchups, all 4 teams are looking for their first win of the season. We've got Decatur Staley's Mike there facing off Bill of the Hollow Earthers. Both went 0-1 this past week, so they are going to get a win there. And then Thoughts and Prayers versus Football and Stuff, another division matchup. Both lost and looking for their first win. And then 2 other division matchups, which will decide sole possession of first place. It's my team, Rose City Destroyers, versus the Blue Barracudas, the highest scoring team of last week. Very much looking forward to that. And then insert name here versus the Alpha Peter, looking for sole possession of first place. Looking forward to it.
All right. We will see you next week. Same place, maybe not the same time, but we will be here for sure.
Yeah. We'll probably do
with
it
a guest,
little bit later.
And we'll do something a little bit different next week. So thank you for joining us, for John, for myself, since there's no guest. This has been the Rose Tackle Football Show.
Adios.